December 13th, 2000, 12:57 p.m. A Texas Supermax prison holding 2,936 inmates is getting hijacked. In the maintenance shop, 11 guards and supervisors lie face down in their underwear, wrists bound and mouths taped. 7 inmates stand over them, pulling on stolen uniforms. But here's where it gets insane. These convicts aren't digging tunnels. They're not cutting fences. They're about to drive a prison truck straight through the front gate, and the armed guards will wave them goodbye. It gets worse. They've just raided the armory. 14 handguns, an AR-15, a shotgun, and 237 rounds. The guards have no idea the men protecting the prison are now the men escaping it. And the most insane part, one checkpoint guard will look directly at them, sense something's wrong, reach for his radio, and still let them pass. This isn't a movie. This is the most audacious prison break in American history. And the prison's own weapons, uniforms, and truck made it possible. How did 7 inmates take an entire Supermax hostage? And what made that final guard ignore every instinct and open the gate? June 2000. Rivas discovers a flaw the prison doesn't know exists months earlier while working as a clerk in the maintenance department. Call it the lunchtime loophole. He tested it himself. One noon, he signaled a crewmate to stay hidden behind a stack of lumber during the inmate count. No alarm and no search party. No frantic guards checking names against clipboards. The officers didn't even notice a man missing from the roster. Inmates are meticulously counted at 6 a.m. and 10 p.m. But at noon, guards focus on feeding 2,900 mouths. Work crews like the maintenance team vanish from the radar entirely. The midday hour is the slowest, sleepiest stretch inside any prison. A pause in the chaos when everyone's guard drops. And if you're clever enough to notice, a window to disappear in plain sight. George Rivas, a 30-year-old serving 18 consecutive life sentences for a string of armed robberies and a kidnapping, has nothing but hours to think. And he's been plotting escape since his first night behind bars. His criminal record proved he could orchestrate complex operations involving multiple accomplices, precise timing, and high stakes. This would be his masterpiece. Not a desperate sprint through barbed wire while tower snipers draw beads on his back. That's how amateurs die. Rivas had studied every famous prison break, every failure and every near miss. He knew the men who tried to go over the walls got picked off before they hit the ground. No, he plans to drive out through the front gate like a state employee clocking out for the day. Rivas treats escape the way a CEO treats a hostile takeover. Months of reconnaissance, precision timing, zero margin for error. Where do you even begin breaking out of an escape-proof prison? If you're George Rivas, you start with a crew of 7 and a Trojan horse. The Connolly Unit's maintenance department operates like a separate world. Civilian staff, inmate workers, and heavy equipment rolling in and out beyond the cell blocks. Rivas smooth-talked his way into a clerk position there. Then he pitched the sergeant in charge. Transfer my friends onto the crew, and we'll crack down on the tool thefts plaguing the shop. The sergeant agreed. By late 2000, Rivas's handpicked team was assembled. 6 fellow inmates with a mix of skills, nerve, and nothing left to lose. Patrick Murphy, 39, a crafty woodshop worker already constructing the truck's false floor in secret. Michael Rodriguez, 38, whose family connections would secure a getaway vehicle waiting beyond the walls. Donald Newberry, 38, a career criminal with a talent for picking locks and ice in his veins. Joseph Garcia, 29, cool-headed and fiercely determined. Larry Harper, 37, the muscle when force became necessary. Randy Halprin, 23, the youngest, eager to prove himself. They planned in whispers and code for months, memorizing guard rotations, mapping patrol routes, and spreading false rumors to keep staff complacent. Every night in their cells, the 7 men rehearsed every scenario. Who grabs which guard, who snatches which key, and how to pivot if anything goes wrong. By December 12th, they'd walked through the entire escape 100 times in their heads. The final variable was timing. The escape was set for a Wednesday, December 13th, during that lazy post-lunch lull when guards are sluggish and slow to respond. If they struck exactly when the prison's attention blinked, at noon count, the response might come slow and confused. At least, that was the theory. The night before, the 7 convicts shared a quiet meal together. Contraband burritos and sodas Murphy had smuggled from the kitchen, and prayed together in hushed voices, a final pact between men who might not live to see another sunset. Each man knew the stakes. Failure meant a bullet from the guards or a needle in the arm. Texas had executed 40 inmates the previous year alone, but to them, living another decade caged like animals was a fate worse than either. Tomorrow would bring freedom or death, nothing between. By noon on December 13, 2000, theory meets concrete. Rivas and his crew linger behind while other inmates shuffle toward the chow hall. "Just gonna wax the floors," they tell a passing guard with a disarming shrug. The guard nods and walks away, leaving them unsupervised in the maintenance bay, exactly as planned. As the heavy steel door swings shut behind him, Rivas checks his watch. It's 11:50 a.m., right on schedule. He trades glances with his 6 partners. It's now or never. But Rivas isn't just counting on the loophole to hold. He's counting on the prison's own weapons to guarantee their exit. How does an unarmed inmate get his hands on 14 handguns, a rifle, and a shotgun inside a maximum security facility? That answer lies behind a door they haven't reached yet. One by one, the targets walk straight into the trap. It starts in the cavernous workshop with its paint-scented air and oil-stained concrete, almost comically easy, like a spider waiting in its web. A civilian maintenance supervisor wanders back early from lunch, belly full of cafeteria meatloaf, to find Rivas mopping the floor with unusual focus, working the same patch of concrete over and over. "Need a hand?" the supervisor asks, stepping fully through the doorway. Before he finishes the sentence, 2 inmates materialize from behind a row of lockers and slam him against a tool bench. The impact knocks the wind from his lungs. Grab, gag, bind. He's dragged to a back electrical room and dumped with hands trussed in orange extension cord, eyes bulging above the tape sealing his mouth. The Trojan Horse, a seemingly busy maintenance shop, has swallowed its first victim. Rivas's crew moves with assembly line precision, each man knowing his role cold. They have a tight schedule, less than 90 minutes before afternoon count, and 0 tolerance for slip-ups. The next person to return is a guard who oversees inmate work crews. He pokes his head through the doorway, brow furrowed, sensing the unusual silence. Instantly, Patrick Murphy lunges from behind a filing cabinet, pressing a sharpened screwdriver to the guard's throat hard enough to dimple the skin. The guard's hand flails for the pepper spray on his belt, too slow. He's yanked inside, stripped of his radio, keys, and pistol, and forced to the floor beside the first hostage. 2 down. They can't wait for others to stumble in by chance. Too risky, too slow. Rivas grabs the guard's radio and mimics his gruff Texas drawl. "Control, send the maintenance boss to the shop. We got a hydraulic leak spraying everywhere." His voice is confident, irritated, exactly what dispatch expects to hear from an annoyed worker. Moments later, another supervisor walks into the ambush, toolbox in hand. 3 inmates pounce. A wrench skitters across concrete with a metallic clatter. He barely manages a gasp before a calloused hand clamps over her mouth. He joins the pile, trembling so hard his teeth chatter. 3 down. With each takedown, the risk of discovery spikes. 11 hostages are ultimately wrangled. Correctional officers, civilian supervisors including their department head, and unlucky inmate bystanders who wandered past. They're stripped of uniforms, belts, and dignity, left shivering on the cold floor. Why the undressing? Simple. The escapees need disguises. Rivas's men tug stolen shirts and jackets over their white prison jumpsuits. It's a macabre costume change, convicts transforming into staff in real time. They clip on ID badges and carry clipboards as props. From across the yard, a guard squinting their way would see diligent workers, not 7 men planning the biggest prison break in Texas history. Yet even the best-oiled machine can jam. One panicked maintenance clerk starts hyperventilating, wheezing loud enough to carry through walls. Rivas tenses. Will someone hear? Donald Newberry crouches and presses the clerk's face into the crook of his elbow, muffling the sound until the man nearly passes out. The wheezing stops. Crisis averted, but a new threat crackles to life. A voice on the guard's radio, making everyone freeze. Maintenance report. Why isn't that truck at Building B yet? Over. It's a tower guard expecting the routine post-lunch crew movement. Rivas holds up the radio, finger hovering over the transmit button. This is the tightrope between freedom and lockdown, and it's swaying beneath his feet. What happens if the tower guard doesn't buy his bluff? And even if he does, how will 7 inmates walk across an open prison yard in broad daylight without getting shot? Rivas takes a steadying breath and clicks the radio. In that moment, he channels the persona of the maintenance supervisor whose uniform he's wearing. "On our way now," he drawls, voice dripping with casual irritation. "Had to clean up a spill. Give us 5 minutes." He releases the button. The crew holds its breath. 5 seconds pass, then 10. If the tower guard catches anything wrong in that voice, he'll trigger a facility-wide lockdown and seal every door. Static crackles, then silence. The guard bought it. Rivas exhales. He just bluffed a tower officer from 100 yards away. And it worked. A confident lie just outsmarted a maximum security prison's eyes and ears. But there's no time to savor it. They're still inside the fortress, and they haven't reached the firepower they need to survive outside. Joseph Garcia and Larry Harper shrug into stolen guard jackets and slip out a side door. Disguised as correctional officers, they stride across the compound like they belong, keys jingling, nodding at a passing guard who barely looks up. At the armory, a lone officer glances up in surprise. Harper barks, "Warden wants these guns moved for inventory, now." The officer frowns. That's not standard procedure. Before he can object, Harper and Garcia are on him. They wrestle the armory guard to the floor and cuff him with his own handcuffs. One man closes the door silently. The other binds the guard's ankles. In under 20 seconds, the armory belongs to them. They grab everything. 14 handguns, 1 AR-15 rifle, 1 shotgun, and 237 rounds of ammunition. They stuff it all into duffel bags. If things go wrong now, the fugitives will be armed like a small militia. Back in the maintenance shop, Rivas unlocks the chain-link gate to the motor pool using keys stripped from a guard. Parked there is a white prison maintenance truck, their Trojan horse on wheels. Months earlier, Patrick Murphy secretly modified this vehicle. Under the pickup bed, he built a false floor, a hollow space just large enough to hide 2 men lying flat. Dusty, cramped, and absolutely brilliant. Randy Halpern slithers into the compartment, pressing himself into the narrow void. Another man squeezes in beside him. They will be invisible cargo. Garcia and Harper return with the weapons. The crew divides the guns quickly. Each man tucks a handgun into his stolen uniform. Rivas pumps a shell into the shotgun and tosses it in the truck's cab. The hostages in the electrical room have started moaning through their gags, inching closer to discovery. Time to move. Rivas takes one last glance at the scene. 11 bound and gagged staff huddled behind a padlocked door, alive but utterly helpless. He quietly secures the lock from outside. Now comes the riskiest stretch, crossing an open prison yard to reach the final gate. A crew of workers and a marked maintenance truck must approach the exit in broad daylight, banking entirely on the illusion that they belong. One slip in posture, one wrong glance, and tower rifles will cut them down where they stand. But Rivas has timed this moment for a reason, and the guard at the final checkpoint has no idea what's rolling toward him. Will his plan be so clever to make the guards not notice? Rivas climbs into the driver's seat. Beside him, Murphy slouches low, wearing the maintenance supervisor's jeans, jacket, baseball cap, and sunglasses. The men not hiding beneath the false floor fall in around the vehicle, carrying clipboards and toolboxes. Deep breath and act natural. It's just past 1 p.m. Shift change for some guards, a lull for others. If their timing holds, the tower sentries will see nothing more than a routine crew doing routine work. They roll forward. Gravel crunches under the tires. The yard stretches several hundred yards to the double perimeter fences. Guard towers loom above, tinted windows hiding watchful eyes. But from a distance, the scene looks mundane. A maintenance vehicle trundling along, surrounded by a few workmen. Rivas clamps the wheel to steady his hands. He forces the speed to a steady 5 miles per hour. Too slow looks suspicious. Too fast draws attention. One man walking alongside flips through a clipboard as if checking work orders, though his heart pounds against his ribs. From above, a guard would probably yawn and turn away. That's exactly what Rivas is counting on. A chain-link gate marks the final checkpoint. Beyond it lies an open highway and the promise of freedom. A lone guard steps out of the gatehouse as the truck approaches. Rivas's stomach flips. This guard is the last human obstacle. The truck grinds to a halt, and the guard, middle-aged, graying mustache, mirrored sunglasses, holds up a hand and peers at the unfamiliar faces. "Afternoon. Where y'all headed?" His eyes narrow at Murphy's ill-fitting civilian jacket, at Rivas's rigid posture behind the wheel. For a split second, no one speaks. Murphy clears his throat. "Work order out at Building B," he says, forcing boredom into his voice. "Generator acting up." He holds up the stolen ID badge clipped to his chest. The guard steps closer and squints at the badge, then at Murphy's face. A bead of sweat trickles down Rivas's neck. The guard's gaze shifts to the truck bed, where only coiled hoses and a toolbox are visible. 2 men lying motionless beneath the false floor. The guard's hand hovers near the radio at his belt. Under the truck bed, Donald Newberry clicks the safety off his pistol. If this collapses, they're prepared to shoot their way out, a bloody path they desperately want to avoid. In the driver's seat, Rivas's boot hovers over the gas pedal, ready to ram the gate. This is the razor's edge. Maintain the ruse or go loud. The guard frowns, clearly sensing something wrong. His fingers drum on the radio as he takes a breath to speak. One wrong word now unravels everything. Will he reach for that radio or wave them through? The guard is seconds from keying his radio when Rivas shoves all his chips into the pot. He leans out the window, face twisted in irritation. "Look," he snaps, "we're already running late. You want to explain to the warden why this generator's still busted? Because I'll call him right now and let him know it's on you." He fixes the guard with a hard stare, channeling every fed-up foreman the man has ever met. For a moment, the guard just blinks. Inmates never speak to him like that, but an annoyed civilian supervisor might. The sheer audacity throws him off balance. The guard's hand falls away from his radio. He raises both palms. "All right, no need for that," he mutters, stepping back. He waves to the gatehouse. With a metallic clunk, the electric gate begins to slide open. The prisoners hold their breath. Inch by inch, the outside world appears through the widening gap. Murphy gives the guard a curt nod, in character to the end as a gruff employee with places to be. Rivas eases the truck forward. Beyond the inner gate, a second gate is already opening, the last barrier lifting like a curtain. No alarms, no gunshots. They are officially outside the perimeter. Rivas steers onto the open road. Winter sunlight spills across the hood. Cold December air floods the cab. It takes all his willpower not to floor the accelerator. The white truck rolls onto Highway 181, beyond the shadow of the guard towers. He holds it at 45 miles per hour, just another state vehicle on a Texas highway. In the rearview mirror, the guard is already lighting a cigarette, utterly unaware he just waved goodbye to 7 escaped convicts. Only when the prison's silhouette disappears do the men share glances of stunned relief. For a moment, silence rules the cab. Then Joseph Garcia lets out a shaky laugh. Larry Harper slaps the dashboard, prompting immediate shushes. Adrenaline burns through their veins. Rivas allows himself a thin grin. For the first time in years, these men are unshackled, breathing free air. But they know this taste of freedom is fragile. They're not safe yet, not even close. A couple miles up the road, they pull into a Walmart parking lot. A civilian getaway car waits there, arranged by Rodriguez's family. The crew abandons the prison truck without ceremony and crams into the waiting vehicle. Within minutes, the Texas 7 vanished down the highway, free and anonymous. Back at the Connolly unit, lunchtime ends and head count begins. At 1:30 p.m., a corrections officer unlocks the maintenance bay door and stumbles upon 11 gagged colleagues in their underwear. The alarm finally screams across the yard. Guards sprint to lock down the unit. But it's far too late. By the time the first frantic count confirms the unthinkable, the Texas 7 have evaporated into the world outside. Will they be able to stay free? The search begins for the 7 men who accomplished the impossible. Within hours, multiple agencies swarm into action for one of the largest manhunts in Texas history. FBI, U.S. Marshals, Texas Rangers, and dozens of local departments coordinate a dragnet spanning the entire Southwest. Their mugshots glare from wanted posters plastered in every gas station and truck stop from San Antonio to El Paso. Tips flood hotlines across the country. Hundreds per day, most worthless, but each one checked anyway. Within days, the fugitives dominate every news channel and FBI alert. A $500,000 reward draws bounty hunters out of the woodwork. The Texas 7 even attempt another Trojan horse scheme on the outside. On Christmas Eve, they impersonate security contractors to rob an Oshman's sporting goods store in Irving, Texas, netting $70,000 in cash and more weapons. During the robbery, they murder Irving police officer Aubrey Hawkins, who responded to a 911 call, a killing that seals their fate. America's Most Wanted broadcasts their faces to 15 million viewers. The nation is transfixed by the tale of 7 armed cop killers on the run. 6 weeks pass with no capture. Then, on January 21, 2001, a blizzard of police lights encircles a snowy RV park high in the Colorado Rockies, the beginning of the end. A SWAT team surrounds the gang near Woodland Park, Colorado, after a tip from an America's Most Wanted viewer. Rivas and 4 others are arrested at a gas station a mile away without a fight. They'd stepped out for groceries, never suspecting the net had closed. Larry Harper ends it on his own terms back at the RV, a single gunshot to the chest rather than surrender. 2 days later, the final fugitives, Newberry and Murphy, are cornered at a Colorado Springs Holiday Inn. In a bizarre twist, they demand a live television interview before giving up, using their last minutes of freedom to rail against the Texas justice system on camera while SWAT teams wait in the hallway. By January 24, 2001, the Texas 7's infamous run is over. All survivors were convicted of capital murder for Officer Hawkins' death and returned to Texas death row, a final, ironic homecoming to the prisons they thought they'd escaped forever. In the years since, 5 of the 7 have been executed by lethal injection, including George Rivas in 2012. The remaining 2 await their fate on death row. George Rivas and his crew didn't just break out. They humiliated a fortress designed to be unbreakable. They exposed a truth that haunts every warden in America. Even the highest walls crumble when someone treats them like a puzzle to solve. Maximum security means nothing when a single blind spot goes unnoticed. And if you want to see another story about inmates who found impossible cracks in the system, watch this video on a Japanese man who escaped prison 4 times, one of them with a soup bowl.